Ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the Gridiron Hardwood podcast with both of your hosts. I am Trent. On the other end is Tyler, having some technical difficulties today, so we're just going to have his audio today, and y'all get to see my beautiful face all pod. Um, yes, that is satirical. Before anyone tries to say something, but anyway, so I kind of alluded to this on Twitter through our Gridiron and Hardwood podcast page, that we would be going through this segment first because I think this is a great place to start the podcast today. But we'll be going over the top 10 college basketball non-winners in NCAA history. I'm not sure. Maybe Tyler might be putting together his own list for football. I don't know. We'll have to see on that one. But first, today we are going to do this college basketball one. Today I put together some pretty difficult things to do. But before we get to that, just quick few housekeeping things. So before we start the show, I just want to let y'all know that again we are on social media at Gridwood Pod on Twitter and at Gridiron.Hardwood Pod on Instagram as well as TikTok. And other than that, unless you have any opening remarks for us, Tyler, you want to go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of this list that I got prepared for us today?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I want to preface this with saying there were a lot of hard decisions that had to be made. There were a lot of teams that came into consideration. I wanted to make my own unique list, so I went through a few different sources, asked a few different AIs, went through a few different videos, looked up a few different lists, kind of try to get as many teams as possible that I could personally look through and try to get my own take on things because for a lot of these teams I was not alive to see them play, so I had to base it off statistics, players that were on the team, etc., etc. Before, so our number 10 team I want to introduce y'all to is our 2004-2005 Illinois Fighting Illini. Um, and so this team was a team that was composed of Deron Williams as well as some college exclusive stars, some guys that were very good stars in their roles at Illinois, but when they got to the NBA level a little bit later, they didn't exactly show that same level, kind of like Jimmer Fredette at BYU, if you're
Mm-hmm.
aware of that. But there are a lot of guys in college that real dogs in college. Sometimes it just doesn't translate over to the NBA, and that was the
Right.
case with this Illini team. So they had a lot of players that were contributing on this team, a lot of stars, and so I wanted to give them their due diligence. Included on very few lists though that I went through as being this higher rank. Um, Now, as we get further up this list, there might be some people labeling it some bias, and we'll address that as we get there. But I wanted to say that as far as the difficult conversation, there's a lot of them to be had here. I think that these bottom three are kind of the ones that I had the difficult time of being like, okay, who's above who here? Kind of
Right.
had to drill more into what statistics do I really prefer. And for the Illini, there were some other competitors. I'll get to those later. But this Illini team, they were had a 15.4 average margin of victory in college basketball. Very, very good. Their strength of schedule was very high, and typical. Okay, we're gonna get our stars. We're gonna try to play through them and go out and win a national championship. Unfortunately, for Illinois, like every other team on this list, that didn't quite happen. And before I get to number 9, I do want to just make the people aware that all of these teams are going to be post Magic and Bird because a personal feeling of mine is that basketball truly didn't really exist before them. Like there were players, there were this, there were that, but the elite level basketball really
But
didn't
they were
exist
plumbers. I
before
mean,
they.
this is
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So I kind of looked at teams around that. There were a few teams that had some like consideration. UCLA was one of them. There was a Indiana team before they came in, but I didn't feel right adding those onto the list, considering that those were kind of the plumber days in my opinion. So I just wanted to preface that before we get further down the road and people are like, oh, why is this 70s or 60s team not on here? That's why. But
Hmm.
without further ado, I know I keep straggling all along, but number 9, call me biased if you want, I got the 1985-1986 Duke Blue Devils.
Oh,
This was a team with a little bit of star power at the college level. Now, unlike Illinois, none of these guys, because at least Illinois had Deron Williams that performed at the NBA level, but none of these guys really made a very big impact on the NBA level. The biggest star player I'd say from this team was probably Danny Ferry, um, white boy shooter back in the day.
okay,
I think
okay.
that a lot of people probably know him for his My Team cards. He's another one of those guys that like he's gotten his second grace from the video games and such, which I think that that's a good and a bad thing. It kind of helps you be like, oh, this guy's good in this game. I'm gonna dive deeper into him. But we also need to realize that these guys are a little bit different than they play in My Team because they juice those cards a little bit. But nonetheless, very, very good player when during his time at Duke. Had some conflict as soon as he left Duke and everything of that sort. Um, but I thought very, very solid team. Um, they had going back to my statistics that I kind of gathered on a very high strength of schedule, had a 15-point uh, average margin of victory, and then you know that was I thought that was very cool. And then, like I said, some stars to be had on that team. Trying to remember the ones other than Danny Ferry because there were some. Oh yeah, Jay Billis, point guard back in the day.
Jay Billis,
And then
yeah.
yep, and oh, what's the last guy's name? Johnny Dawkins. Johnny Dawkins, another college star. So those were the main three guys on that team. Of course, guys that may not have had the greatest impact on the NBA level, but when you go back, you look at that film, the 85-86 Duke team, really, really well put together. And if only they could have finished the job, you know, Duke would have another banner up there, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But still, shouts out to them, as every other team on this list for doing what they did. And I do kind of want to, at least shout out those guys that were part of these teams that may not have been as appreciated as they deserve to be. So again, for that, going back to the Illinois team, there was Luther Head and D Brown, both very solid players for that team, but they were
Mm-hmm.
mostly role players. They were excellent college guards, but inevitably they largely ended up being role players at the next level, which they did make it to, but not succeed at. Um, so the next team I have on the list here, we got your 1996, 1997 Kentucky Wildcats. Now,
Ooh.
yes, 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 yes. This team was a team constructed mostly of what I would say role players. This was like your prototypical, hey, we may not have our Cooper Flag, our Zion, our what was the other guy's name this year for Auburn? Johnny Broom, Jedi Broom.
Mm-hmm.
We may not have that guy. We may not have our sorry, keep going back to Duke guys, but Christian Leitner. We may not have that guy, but we have all these guys on this team that know exactly how to play the role presented to them. So some of those guys for this team was a Ron Mercer, a Nazir Muhammad, Scott Padgett, and Wayne Turner, which for the casual list of NBA fans probably aren't the most familiar names, but they were very, very good, solid college contributors, just didn't have that impact at the next level. Nazir Muhammad was kind of one of those role players, kind of on both levels, so he took that role player ability from his experience at Kentucky and was able to translate that role player mindset and mentality and ability to get things done onto that next level, as did Ron Mercer, who was the lead scorer for this team. They had a very high strength of schedule in the SEC, of course, with a 16.4 margin of victory. So within that elite of a conference, to have that margin of victory says a lot about your team. Now, the team that I'm really excited to get to here is number 7. I think this is kind of like they're not in the top 6 because I think the top 6 teams are like these are the top 6 teams. You kind of may have them placed a little bit different, but general consensus, these are kind of among the top 6 teams that I would say are kind of show up in every list. But for number 7 was a team that I saw on one or two lists that I really fell in love with because of their how would I say it, their historicality of things. So for a team that played in the 80s, this team scored 102 points a game at the college level. 102.5 points a game at the college level. And that also came with an elite margin of victory as well. And for those who may not realize who this is yet, that would be the 1987-88 Oklahoma Sooners. So not just a football school, I guess. Had their heyday in
Mhm.
basketball as well, but a very solid team. They had a, let me check my notes here. I believe I think it was like a 26 margin of victory, which is unheard of. Along with that, 102 points a game. Oh, it's 22 and a half, sorry. A high difficulty strength of schedule. Trying to look here because I have them noted down. Their star players, the main one people may know is going to be Stacey King, was a very good college star and then NBA role player at that next level. Harvey Grant, little known name, another solid, very, very solid NBA contributor, but a very large piece of that Oklahoma team when it was at that level. And then this team, like I said, they may have scored 102 points a game, but you also have to prevent the other team from scoring 102 points a game, right? So the last guy that I have notated as a
Yeah,
big player for this
defense.
team is going to be, yeah, Mookie Blaylock. Um, another one of those lesser heard names, but a very, very solid defensive wizard who had a very strong NBA career. Uh, so I really like this 1987-88 team because, yeah, now you might see an NBA team go for that 102.5 points game every game, but you got to realize that not only is the college game shorter, these players are typically not as good on a player-to-player basis. So for you to still be able to get that 102 points, which is almost unmatched by any other team, is just incredible at the college level. It's not like college football where you might have a FBS team or an FCS beat an FCS team by 70 every game, right?
Hmm
The college basketball level, FCS, FBS, what those teams would be are kind of combined and on the same level playing field. So, uh, for a team of that magnitude that's playing in the conference they were at the time, I believe it would have been the Big 12 if I'm not mistaken, Big 8 at the time. But for them to be able to play in a not elite basketball conference, but still one of those big 4 or 5 conferences with the Big East and SEC and ACC and all of that, and still be able to put up that margin of production is insane to me. It would be different if they were like a Gonzaga or a Villanova or someone, well, I guess maybe not Villanova, but like one of those teams that's playing in one of those worst conferences that are still, at the D1 level, the Sun Belt's equivalent of college basketball, if you will, uh, or I guess Conference USA, whichever you think is the lower tier there. It would be one thing if they were playing those teams every game and putting up that margin and that level of scoring, but for them to do it in such a good basketball conference as the Big Eight at the time, I thought was very, very impressive in a era that was largely dominated by defense. I mean, the scoring era, I don't really think took a hold really until like the 2000s. So, uh, yeah, I kind of went on a long rant there, but I just wanted to show that 87-88 team a lot of love because they're one of those that are lesser included, but once someone does, you can see how much production that they really put in to everything. Um, but
hmm
now the top 6 teams I think are kind of separated from all of them. And so before I get to those top 6 teams and give you a little bit of a break here when I go through these honorable mentions. So my first honorable mention I have is the 1995-1996 UMass Minutemen. This is a team I really wanted to include just because I wanted to say, oh, well, here's a smaller university that's like doing their thing. But I thought that when I went and looked kind of back at those analytics, the analytics and maybe the overall team firepower didn't quite match what the other teams had, unfortunately. So I couldn't include them within the top 10. But I did want to give them their due diligence and due respect. And saying that they were a very solid team. Their main guy was Marcus Camby. For all my ball knowers out there, very, very solid big man back in his day, both in the NBA and in college. So Marcus Camby and the UMass Minutemen, I thought that team was very good. I wanted to give them their shout out, despite them not making the top 10 list. But then I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to 2016-2017 Gonzaga. I think their main star at
Hey,
that time would have been like Rui Hachimura and Zach Collins or something of that sort. If my recollection serves me correct. But that Gonzaga team, I I was trying to figure out a way that I could say, okay, how do I include this team as well? But when you have all these other great teams, someone's got to get left out, and these are kind of the teams that unfortunately didn't make the cut for me. I think that, once I get to the top part of this list, some people are going to argue, well, you just had this rationale for Gonzaga, but you didn't apply it to maybe one of the other teams. But it's that, yes, they had a very historic margin of victory, but they're playing in the WCC where the talent margin's not great and their strength of schedule overall during the regular season, despite making the NCAA championship, their strength of schedule was moderate at best. It wasn't high or very high like a lot of the other teams that are on this list. I think every team that made this list had either a high or a very high strength of schedule. And so I think that unfortunately, due to that major part in them playing in the WCC, I can't necessarily give them the same props as some other teams due to some things that more or less are out of their control. I just think that there are some teams that deserve the credit more than they do just because of the situations that they had to go through in their specific given years and times. And so I do think that that Gonzaga team was very, very good. Let me locate my statistics on them here. Gonzaga had a 22.6 average margin of victory. Again, that mediocre strength of schedule, but they had some very solid talent. So I did want to give them their shout out. I got two more teams on this, and then I got a special shout out just for one of the homies here in San Antonio that's a fan. But the third team I wanted to give a shout out before we get back to the list, 97-98 University of North Carolina. They had a plus 14 margin of victory with a very high strength of schedule. They had two real main stars, one of them being Vince Carter, the other one being Antoine Jameson, and then they had
you.
a elite college playmaker that again is one of those guys that didn't really make it at the next level, but you still got to give him his respect, and that is Ed Cota. Again, an elite passer. I believe one of the articles and videos I was looking at saying he was like the first guy to have 1,500 career, meaning 1,000 points, 1,000 assists, and 500 rebounds. He was one of the first guys to do that, and so that Kentucky team, very very good. Or sorry, I don't know why I say Kentucky. University of North Carolina team, very good. And then the last team is Patrick Ewing's own 84-85 Georgetown. They were struggling to, get to the title game and win it, but that team was very, very good. I think they had a few years that they were still trying to fight and fight and fight. That was one of those years that they ultimately did not make it, or they ultimately did not win the championship. I still believe that that year they made the national championship game. Um, and as I alluded to earlier, two main criteria I used was had to be in the Final Four because I feel like if you fell short of that Final Four, there was probably some glaring weakness that may not have been properly addressed. And you may have had a lot of talent, but ultimately, if you're losing in the Elite Eight, I feel like you don't really deserve to be in that conversation, in my opinion. But they did make that Final Four, and I believe the national championship game, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very solid team. But yes, that was one of Patrick Ewing's teams, one of the few Georgetown teams historically that you can point to with some recognizable guys. I'm sure they've sent a bunch of players to the NBA. I just think that's probably one of, if not their most impactful and notable NBA players, and one of their probably the best, and other than like their championship years, probably the best time or best team that they've had. Now this top six. I'm going to go ahead and get into that unless Tyler has any sort of teams he'd like to input or anything of that sort. I actually do have that one extra team, but I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tyler, see if he has anything that he'd like to input as far as who we've gone over so far.
No, that Vince Carter team is very interesting because that's when the time where a lot of guys, and you said the role player that had 1,500, like that's a crazy stat line, and it's very rare to get that nowadays because that's when guys used to stay all 4 years in school, shit, even 5 years. But now guys are just one and done, or if the max will do 2 years. So that Vince Carter team was definitely a very good team. So that's all I had to add for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that last team, I just wanted to give a quick mention to. Didn't really get their chance to play in the NCAA tournament, not because they just weren't good enough or this or that. There was kind of a global disease surrounding that time period, known as COVID-19, and that was going to be the 2019-2020 Baylor Bears, who fell short that year, who had ran into that COVID season, but were having a very, very good season otherwise. They went on like a 22 game win streak. And they were having a very, very good year until everything kind of had to get shut down for COVID. The next year, they did end up putting it all together, winning the championship. But if we're talking purely along the lines of not winning a championship, and regardless of the fact that they had the opportunity or not, because there was no NCAA tournament, that is definitely one of those teams that you got to look at and give them a little bit of respect. But I did kind of want to just throw them out there. I know my friend Dakota is a big fan of Baylor, and he asked me to talk about them. So there's your 2 cents. Now, without further ado, number 6. This is an era that I wanted to include two teams from. I thought the cultural significance of this team would lead them to having the two teams because I saw two teams that were mentioned for this kind of era constantly listed on some lists, but it just became the overwhelming fact that the first year, 91, 92, this team just was still developing. They made the national championship, but they just kind of weren't there yet. You could still see that there was some development needed. So I went ahead and went with the following year for the Fab Five, and that's the 92, 93 Michigan team. They didn't have maybe necessarily the statistical or other impacts that these other teams have had, but they were very culturally significant to the sport of basketball because it was the first time that we saw all these five freshmen link up and try to do something like that. And so I think that that was a very, very good team. Maybe not as productive independently as a team as some of these other teams, but I think what they did for the game of basketball and drawing a lot of new potential viewers to the game because of that interesting storyline where they have five crazy good freshmen was really impactful for the game overall. So I think that the cultural significance is a large part of what landed them here at number 6 because I didn't feel right making a top 10 list and leaving the Fab Five off because when you think of even top teams all time to play college basketball, people really remember that Michigan team, regardless of the fact that they may not have won a championship in that first year or two, or I don't remember if they ever won one, but
No, they
for
never
that
won a
Mich
championship. Mm-mm.
right, so I think that because you're able to recall them when you're like, oh, who are some of the greatest NCAA teams of all time, regardless of whether they made the national championship and lost or won, or regardless. A lot of people do bring up that Michigan team because of how impactful it was for the game of basketball in general. Tyler, you got anything to add on the Fab Five?
No, just the Fab Five was a great team, and yeah, they haven't won a championship ever. One of them was against Duke, I believe, when that timeout. Chris Webber, he went in that corner,
Yep,
called
Chris
that
Webber.
timeout, and then another one, and then the other one, they didn't even get to the championship. I think they lost in the Final Four round, but
Right.
just a great team, and just five freshmen, man. Just it's hard to get five freshmen to ball out like that. Like every one through
Yeah.
five was a freshman. There wasn't like, oh, four freshmen and then one senior. All
Right.
freshmen. Just balling out. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I had to add on that.
Yeah, kind of a trailblazer in that way of like, trying to take some freshmen and this whole group of freshmen and try to build something from scratch. And they were semi-successful with it because I wouldn't say that falling short of a national championship just by losing in the national championship game is like any massive failure. I mean, I think that if you do that with a bunch of freshmen, I think you can consider that a large success, despite the fact that they were obviously hoping for that bigger goal of the national championship. I think that was still a successful season for the team overall. There are a lot of teams that have not even been in that situation that would kill for the situation of being in the national championship game, regardless of who's on their roster. Um, but number five is another one of those early teams that you just got to put on here because the talent that is on this team, the defensive impact that is on this team, and it's continued today. I mean, this team, I can't remember the last time that they've not had a good defense. Offense has been a struggle at times for them over the years, but really ever since this team I'm about to talk about, they've always been locked in on defense. When you hear the name Houston Cougars, what you think about as far as college basketball is defense. That's what got them to the Final Four this year. That's what got them to the national championship game this year was defense. And so I'm not going with that team, but I'm just illustrating the point that like ever since this team existed, this 82-83 Houston team, the defensive culture has been really within the Houston Cougars basketball team. And as much as I hate the city of Houston and the Houston Cougars, I have to give them their due diligence. I can't sit here and be completely biased, as some people are going to say I am, with some other teams that I've included on here. But that Houston Cougars team, 82-83. Tyler, would you like to guess which two all-time Hall of Famers were on that team?
What year was this team? Let me guess.
82-83.
Hmm.
I'll give you a hint. One of them immediately went and played in Houston again in their NBA career.
Penny the Jet Smith?
Nope, it is going to be Hakeem Olajuwon, or at that
I was
time
gonna
known as
say
Akeem Olajuwon. And the other guy, Trailblazers legend, Clyde Drexler. Both of them
I
on
was gonna
that.
say Hakeem though. I definitely was.
Yeah,
Dang.
I didn't even remember Clyde Drexler playing for them until I started doing this research because, like I said, I didn't want to just throw a list at someone and say, "Oh, here's my top 10 teams," when I really just got this off of Grok or Copilot or this one guy's video. But I did some research and I was like, "Oh, wow, these two guys together." And then you saw the defensive impact that these guys had. Let me resort back to my notes here because I believe they had a pretty decent margin of victory as well. Uh, I don't have it written down on my notes. Let me see if I can locate it because I do have it written down somewhere. Sorry for those that are wanting me to get to that next team. I just want to give every team their due diligence. So yes, for Phi Slamma Jamma, as they were affectionately known, they averaged
Yeah.
78.4 points per game. They're known for their dunks, athletic dominance, and fast tempo, of course. But there was, other than those two, the unsung hero of this team was actually their leading scorer because it was not either of the Hall of Famers that I just named. It was Michael Young. Michael Young was the leading scorer on this team. He was the guy that took the scoring blow while Akeem and Clyde Drexler were out there playing defense and lighting up the show on the glass. He was making sure that there were other points going in the board so that the defense wasn't for nothing, right? Um, but it's just very, very, very solid team. Let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to locate those specific numbers. 78.4 team point per game, which fairly high for the college level. 66 is the about average for the opponent points per game. They didn't really track it that well back then. But that comes out to an average margin of victory of 12.4. Margin of victory, high strength of schedule. They won the Southwest Conference and went to the Final Four that year. But that is the team known as Phi Slamma Jamma. And you know that regardless of whether you win or lose a national championship game, to get a nickname for your team means you're doing something right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Absolutely.
But yes, sir. And then the next team, a really more recent team than most, a lot more recent than any other team so far, and that is 2014, 2015 Kentucky Wildcats.
Oh,
That was a team that, Devin Booker, the guy who dropped 70 at the NBA level, he was coming off the bench for this team. That's how good this Kentucky team was. They had Karl Anthony Towns on this team. This was just such a very very stacked team. Um, Trying to look because I know there was more than just those two. I can't remember the other guys off the top of my head. Who were they? It was oh my lord, my nose is running over here. I don't know why.
mine is too,
But
bro. For real.
uh, oh, yeah, that was. I found the other guy that I was looking for because he was another guy that I remembered for the Kings, in his play for the Kings, but he was very, very good at Kentucky as well. That's Willie Cauley Stein. So even before Cat got to the Knicks, he was playing with another big, in Willie Cauley Stein. But this team had a bunch of NBA players. So starting at the top of these NBA players again, you got Cat, you got Devin Booker again, who came off the bench. Then you got Willie Cauley Stein, a very, very good defensive player while he was in college. Trey Lyles, a guy that's been a sniper since he's been in the NBA, really. Um, Never reached a star caliber, obviously, but a very, very, very solid role player at both levels. Tyler Eulis, another forgotten name, played for the Suns as well. Dakari Johnson, and then Andrew and Aaron Harrison all made the NBA. Kind of had some mixed results, but yeah, that was a very, very deep team. I know people tend to have this like, nostalgia for all these older eras, and so a lot of these teams are not going to have a Kentucky on it or some of the more recent teams. But I do think that like when you look at the modern era of basketball, there's definitely been some very, very good teams that have just fallen short, and so I wanted to give them their respect and maybe rank them a little bit higher than some other people would have them ranked. Um, because these top three, two of them, people are going to say, oh, yeah, those deserve to be up there. The last one, people may argue with me in the comment section. But without further ado, number three, I see it ranked number one by most people. Would you like to take a guess, Tyler? All right, I'm going to take that as a no, but the team that
Oh
I'm
wait, no,
mentioning,
wait. My,
okay.
my, my bad. I was muted because I was blowing my nose, bro. I'm sorry. I didn't want them on the pod.
Oh,
The
no, you're good.
the 2019 Duke Blue Devils with Zion.
No, I didn't include them. They didn't make the Final Four.
Um,
I think they got
I just put
eliminated
it
the
in.
Elite Eight, so they were just short.
I only said them even though they didn't make the Final Four because of like brand name recognition. But
Right.
let me see one more. I
Yeah, I
mean
kind
that
of kept pretty strict to my criteria, though.
that Houston
I
team that just this past year, that Houston team.
No, I'm actually referring to the little university out in Las Vegas known as the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, UNLV, their 1990
Oh,
1991 team that had Stacey Augmon, Larry Johnson, um, oh, and who's that last guy? I'm forgetting a very, very good name. I can't remember. I can't. I have no excuse. I can't rem Oh, who's that last name? Can you bail me out here? Greg Anthony. Cole Anthony's dad. Um, sorry, that's kind of disrespectful to you, Greg Anthony. Very, very good player in your own right. I don't mean to be
Greg, if you see
disrespectful.
this is him, not me.
No, Greg's definitely had a better career that his son has. I just think that a lot of the younger viewers might know who Cole Anthony is and not Greg. So that may be due to them not knowing ball, but hey, that's a separate issue. But Greg Anthony, very solid player. Um, I think he played for the Knicks a little bit. Very solid player in his own right. Sorry, I forgot your name, Greg. But yeah, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Larry Johnson. I think there was one more guy. But nonetheless, very, very good team. Notoriously crazy that they fell short. I think that their margin of victory that year was also in the 20s. Like their run was insane. Let me find that specifically. I have it all notated down somewhere. Sometimes it just takes me a bit to navigate. So I apologize about that. But their team point per game that year, Tyler, 93 and a half. Again, a very, very
Wow.
hard to achieve number. for a UNLV running Rebels and a team in that era, especially. Their opponents point per game, 69.4, uh, which comes out to a grand total of 24.1 margin of victory. Yeah, they had a moderate strength of schedule, but when you look at every single list, everyone's like, how did this UNLV team not win it? How did they not? How? And I think when that's the narrative, you know that you're doing something right and that your team is among some of the greatest of all time, even whether they've won or not, which is kind of the territory you're getting into with this top three. Um, is that even though that they didn't win, they're still among some of those best teams of all time, regardless of the way that their season had ended. And so you got to give that team a lot of respect. Now, the next team on the list, here's where like the major debate comes on because I think we'll get there, but number one is probably a very hot take. Uh, but this number two and number three are really typically debated as number one and number two. Um, and I'll get as to why that's been the narrative over so many years, and it'll be obvious once we get to that number one team. But uh, that's going to be the 98-99 Duke Blue Devils. I know this is our second Duke team on the board already, but
Whoa.
trust me, this team this team was very good. Um, Let me locate my analytics on them as well. But when I looked back at this team, I was like, oh wow, how did I miss this in my Duke memory? Um, so let me just bring it up very quickly here, and by very quickly I mean as quickly as my hands can move. But the 98-99 Duke Blue Devils point per game 91.8, opponent point per game 64.1 for an average margin of victory of 27.7. That is the highest number we've heard so far of any of these teams, by the way. Their strength of schedule very high. So not only are they killing teams game to game, but they're also playing very good teams game to game. So it's not like they're having this like University of Texas at Martin come or University of Tennessee at Martin come in and they're just blowing them out by 70 and that's padding their stats. No. No, they're playing very, very good teams all year and still coming out with a 27.7 differential. I don't even fathom how do you do that? Um, and then these are one of the few teams that, because Ken Palm was established later, that I was able to actually find statistics on. But until 2015, they had the highest Ken Palm rating of any team ever. Only behind, and now as of today in history, the only two teams that they're behind are 2015 and 2015 Wisconsin and 2018 Villanova are the only two teams. Unless my statistics I'm looking at are outdated, those are the only two teams that have surpassed them in Ken Palm rating. Um, so for a team and I guess it's bordering the 2000s, but for a team at that point in time to be able to produce at that high of a level is just very insane. Uh, so I feel like that's one of those teams that as a Duke fan, I've kind of looked over because as a Duke fan, when you've seen that you have these banners that hang up, you want to look at those teams, right? But there are some teams that fell short that are still very good. Zion teams included in that as well. I just don't think personally, even if we went back to establishing the criteria as being minimum Elite Eight, I don't think they would have made the list. Simply because that team didn't have a lot of role players on it, whereas a team like this did. So the notable NBA players that were on this team, Elton Brand. Some of you may not know him. Very, very good player for the Bulls and Sixers. He was the number one pick in 1999 and a two-time NBA All-Star. And then the man of this team was Corey, who is known as a 2K legend, but very, very good in his own right for the Clippers as well as a few other teams. And then the defensive menace known as Shane Battier kind of got a shot later in his NBA career as
Ooh.
well, but he was also on this team. And then the last two guys that I have listed here for real meaningful contributors are William Avery and Trahan Langdon. Solid college guards. They made the NBA, had a limited impact. But that was a very strong, very, very strong team. They went undefeated in the ACC, and they barely lost the NCAA title game to UConn in a 77 to 74 loss. And that year they scored 90 points or more in 20 plus, or sorry, in exactly 20 games. I thought it said 20 plus, but nonetheless, like that's absolutely insane. And so like that's an insanely good team. Now we're getting to a number one. I'm gonna throw my analytics away because this is a passion project, and this is gonna be the one that everyone gets mad at me for, and I'm okay with that because I think that this past year's Duke 24-25 team was one of the greatest college basketball teams I've seen ever. I think that when you look at that team, it was perfectly organized. And they kind of followed up on the recipe of the Fab Five, where they decided, you know what, we're going to recruit all of these high school recruits. And despite people getting on us, getting on Duke about, oh, well, you can't recruit and have freshmen that are going to take you to the promised land. You can't do that. You have to have vet this, vet that. You're going to have to trust your vets when it comes time. The reason this team lost wasn't the freshmen. It was the vets. And that's a very
Hmm.
impactful idea to me, is that the freshmen did their job. So Duke was right in their philosophy of, hey, let's go get these select freshmen. All those freshmen throughout the entire tournament did their job. You want to know the two players that really made it fall short for Duke? Graduate transfer Sion James from Tulane, who had an amazing season up until that Final Four game. He couldn't get the ball checked in, and that's why we lost to Houston. He couldn't get the ball in, which is kind of a him and Shire issue, if you ask me. It's a very bad time to have your best coach, I mean, your worst coach moment of the entire season, because there was no other point in the entire season that John Shire was that bad of a coach. And I think that's probably his worst coach moment in his entire coaching career with the Duke Blue Devils, is that we just kept trying the same thing and same thing and same thing with Sion James throwing the ball in, even after, like, I think it was one or two timeouts we called, trying to make sure that we could get the ball in. Even then, we still couldn't get the ball in with Sion James. And then there was a second vet on the team, a junior at the point in his career, by the name of Tyrese Proctor. He was recently drafted to the Cavs. Sion James, by the way, was also drafted. He was drafted to Charlotte along with Con Knipple, one of the freshmen. And so what Tyrese Proctor was trying to do was overcompensate for when he has fallen below standard in the past. So he had a bad game to start and kept having a bad game because he kept trying to force himself out of his slump instead of going in with the offensive game plan. Because throughout the game, Duke was in the game, they had a big lead. And then because this man Tyrese Proctor kept wanting to try to play hero ball instead of playing within the system that Shire had created, uh, then the lead started dissipating because he was not having a good night and kept trying to force it. So, all in all, I think that they did what the Fab Five ultimately couldn't do and have their freshmen lead them to the promised land. It was their vets ultimately, unfortunately, for myself and other Duke fans, that ultimately made this team fall short. Or I believe, as well as a lot of other Duke fans believe,
Hmm.
that if those vets had played within that system, this would be a national championship team, and this would be one of those teams that we're talking about as one of the greatest college basketball teams of all time. But because of these two players slipping up, and I don't have anything, individually against these players, but these are just the facts of the situation, that in these two moments that they kind of were doing a little bit too much or too little, and it cost us the game. I think that as far as this team goes, it was blowing teams out everywhere. Boom, 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 boom. And you couldn't stop the offense. And it wasn't like you were just gonna like be able to match the scoring, because the defense was just as good, if not better, than the offense was. You had Cooper Flagg, you had Tyrese Proctor when he was shooting the ball well, you had Con Knipple, you had Pat Ngongba, Malik Brown, You had all of these guys that were playing their role effectively for this team. And this team, like I said, blowing every team out that they played, except for like two or three games the entire year, although they were playing a mediocre schedule, including the ACC because the ACC wasn't that good last year. But nonetheless, the when you look at what the Duke team was doing the entire year last year, it's like how did the vets allow themselves to get in their head so much to force that loss to happen? And so that's why I ultimately believe that if we're looking at the teams from a pure roster construction and what the team game plan is to do with said roster construction, because it's not always about how the team looks on paper. For example, the Titans defense in the NFL doesn't look real great on paper, but the way that the game plan is written up for that Titans defense, they were able to give the Denver Broncos, and we'll get into this later, hell all day. So I think that when you look at team build up and what that team build up is meant to do, and what you have your role players there specifically to take the slack off of for, this was a perfectly constructed team. There's not a thing that they could have done to construct this team any better. It was simply just the specific moments that got to them right there in that final four game that ultimately resulted in them losing.
Hmm.
It wasn't that, they didn't have the right players. They had the right players. It was just those few decisions at that end of the game that really cost them. And so I could go on a tangent about this for days, but all in all, I think that when you go and look back at this team and you look at the games that they were playing and the fact that you really couldn't slow down their offense, teams tried and tried and tried, and then they think they'd have success. John Shire would come out after halftime and blow you out. And so that happened in the ACC champion, and not the ACC championship, but the ACC playoffs, and before that, in multiple games, it would be like, oh, these teams are tied going into halftime. The defense of X team has done really well. Georgia Tech, for example, I think they were leading in one of those games going into half or close to it, and then you look at the box score at the end of the game, and it was like, was this ever close? Yeah, Duke just played that well in the second half. They overcame everything. So when you look at it from a roster construction, okay, we have our shooters, we have our guys that can drive to the rim if the shooting's not working. We have this, we have that, we have that. You had every aspect of a team that you needed on that Duke team. It just didn't come together when it needed to come together, which you can blame on coaching, you can blame on the players not being good enough, but I just don't think that that's the reality. I think it's just people make mistakes, players make mistakes, coaches make mistakes in the brief moment of things. And I'm not going to sit here and defend those actions, but when you look at the skill sets and everything that this team was doing, everything that they were putting together on a nightly basis, you can see that the way that the roster was constructed, if this thing's not working, we have a player that does this other thing that's going to be able to complement that and bring that back to the game eventually. So like I said, I could go on a tangent about this for days, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll go back through these rankings for everyone, and that's going to be again Duke Blue Devils 24-25 number one. That's going to be the 98-99 Duke team at number two. Number three, I have the UNLV team from 1990 to 1991. Four, I have 14 to 15 Kentucky. And then I have 82 to 83 Houston at 5. At 6, I have 92-93 Michigan, the Fab 5. At 7, we have 87-88 Oklahoma. At 6, or sorry, my writing. 8, we have 96-97 Kentucky. 9, we have 85-86 Duke. And at 10, we have 04-05 Illinois. And then we went over the honorable mentions earlier, but I'm not going to mention them now because they're not technically part of the list. But yeah, I think that I do have a lot of confidence in every pick that I've made there. Now, without further ado, I do want to kind of go over the past weeks of football action. So I don't know if you'd like to lead this or not, Tyler, but I do have kind of the results of every game. We can go through them and kind of, if you have an opinion, provide it. If not, we can just move on to the next game.
Okay, go ahead.
All
So,
right, so the first game I kind of wanted to talk about. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to host or you go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead, you get it.
Okay, so the first game I put on here was the Titans Bengals, or not Titans Bengals, The Bengals game we'll talk about next because that's your team. But the Titans losing to the Broncos is the team name that I actually meant. I think that as far as this game, you really got to see how underrated this Titans defense is. But you know what else you got to saw how legit the Broncos defense is, because it didn't matter all day. You would move the Titans offense would move the ball down the field a little bit, and it just didn't matter because the Broncos would immediately come back with a stop and force them to punt. The 12 points that the Titans got in this game were off of the Broncos offense, throwing the ball to the defense or the defense generating a pressure and a fumble. That is how the Titans scored all day. The Titans were not moving the ball against the Broncos. The Broncos stood tall. They played every bit of defense you could have asked them to play. And I think that if Sean Payton can get his offense together, this team has a very, very lot of potential. Could make a run if they choose to. But I also think that Callahan and Ridley share some blame and not allowing the Titans to get this victory. In the way that Callahan called plays for this game, which I can go in deeper on Twitter or otherwise. I've posted my full thoughts there. But essentially, there were a lot of decisions Callahan made that were very questionable. Kind of the reverse story of the Duke Illinois game that we discussed in the last pod, where you know Duke was just turning the ball over with stupid mistakes, and that's what lost them the game. Titans were generating this after this after this as far as stops and getting turnovers, but their offense wasn't able to move the ball effectively because of decisions, as well as Calvin Ridley's countless drops on the game. But that is my overall opinion. I'm not here to say that, the Titans or the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl, but I think what you saw from both teams in this game is very promising as to each team's respective future. If you have anything to add on to this game, go ahead, Tyler.
No, no, I got an ad on that game.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So because it's your team, I'll let you go ahead and lead this next discussion. The Bengals finally get a Week 1 victory, and that comes over the Browns. Go ahead.
The Bengals and the Browns. If this for some reason the Bengals division is this obviously the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Steelers. But for some reason the Browns play us the toughest. I don't know if it's like some it's the Battle of Ohio. It's some old history that I have to get into another time since I'm from there. But got out with a 1 point win. The defense actually won us the game on a game winning pick. So college it's about style points and scoring 45 or whatever like that. NFL, you just got to just win the game, even if it is by 1 point, and just move on because everybody's good. So we'll take the win. We're going to go on to the next game. But yeah, just glad that we started off Week 1 with a win. We're still not safe. We don't have a cushion. I don't think you have a cushion until like Week 5
Right.
or Week 6. We have enough wins built up because it's only one win. I mean, the Patriots won Week 1 and they went 4-12 last year. So you got to get at least 6, 7, 8 games under your belt, at least the Week 5 or 6. But it's a good start for us though. So I feel like it was a hard fought game, and it's very difficult to judge Week 1 on any team on any scale because a lot of these guys aren't playing the preseason. I know the Bengals played more, but they still didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. So the month of September is the preseason technically for a lot of teams. October is when like you really start to get in that gear and get in the rhythm because, like I said, a lot of guys are in shape and going to the gym and lifting weights. But football shape is a totally different thing. So there's a lot of times you got to massage that in. But like I said, got a 1 point win, and I'm happy about it. You can go on to the next game.
Sure. I agree with everything you just said. And before we go ahead and do that next game, because I know we got some time constraints here, but I just wanted to mention that, like we mentioned on the podcast a few weeks ago, you can't just say, "Oh, this is our opponent. They suck." Blah 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 blah. We're gonna walk through this game. You have to take them seriously. I think that the Bengals did that to enough of a degree this week that they pulled out the victory, which has been an issue for them in past weeks. So I'm just happy to see that they've finally, at least it appears as such, that they've gotten over these early season woes that they've had a lot in the past, and they've actually seemed to take the Browns fairly seriously. Now the offensive line does need a little bit of help. I saw Myles Garrett essentially almost get 3 sacks in a row, but I think that for them to get this week one, regardless of the margin of victory, I think is a really impactful sign that you as a Bengals fan should have to say that maybe you're going to have a better season this year, that you're going to actually be able to walk away with games early in the season so you don't put yourself in a deficit late in the season. Um,
Yes, sir. LSU won the week one opener, snapped the streak, and so did the Bengals. So it's a good sign for both teams.
yes, sir. Uh, Next game I had here, the games are kind of all over the place, so these are not based on how they were scheduled and this or that. But Bills beat the Ravens after a 15-point comeback. This was kind of the one of the ones I was interested to discuss because like Lamar and Derrick Henry were playing amazing the entire game, but it was just the fact that the defense wasn't there for the Ravens, which is very odd considering the talent that they have on that side of the ball. Uh, Kyle Hamilton, Jair Alexander. I mean, they have every piece that they could really need, and their defense just didn't perform
This is
when it
why
mattered, at least.
this is what I was telling you last episode about Josh Allen. This is exactly what I was telling you, and it manifested itself. This guy just knows about he plays within the game plan, but he just knows like, bro, we'll worry about that in later. Like, let's just win this winning game now. And that's a lot of
Right.
what Joe was doing because you see how Myles Garrett almost had 3 straight sacks. And Joe said, man, scratch the game plan. I'm not about to, because usually Joe would just sit there and take a sack or he would just fall down. He ran out of it and tried to make a play. Josh Allen, man, he is just amazing. I'm not going to put this on Lamar and Derrick Henry because I know Derrick Henry had a fumble, but when it's fourth down, 4th and 2, you need to just run that ball or let Lamar do his thing or get a quick pass or give it the ball to Derrick Henry, but there's no need to punt the ball and get the ball back to Josh Allen. Okay, there's 3 guys. There's 32 teams. Well, there's really 4 guys, but I'm including him. You don't punt the ball back to Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, or Burrow. And I know Burrow hasn't had a lot of game-winning comebacks, but look at last year against Baltimore. Him and Chase were coming back a lot of games. Those are the 4 guys you do not punt the ball back to. Okay, you leave those guys alone. So 4th and 2, you don't trust your defense or you don't trust your offense. On 4th and 2 to get 2 yards, I mean, the Bills
An offense
secondary
that
could
was
not
clicking all
tackle
day.
Derrick Henry. Yeah, the Bills secondary could not tackle Derrick Henry all night. So if I was the Ravens, I'm like, get a ball to Derrick Henry because I mean they scared to tackle him. So go get him the ball. But 2 yards though. But then no, I'm serious for real. So but like they always say, football is a game of inches. You scared to get that 2
Hmm.
yards and you punt the ball back. I understand you have confidence in your defense, but I
Yeah.
mean you got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, you got Isaiah Likely, you got Zay Flowers, you got DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, bro, you got a squad.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you got a good O
Yeah.
line. Just it's 2 yards, 4th and 2. But this is where I think the
Yeah.
analytics crap is taking over football. And, well, the
Hmm.
probability of getting it, you might better just punt it. Well, guess what? The analytics guys never played.
Yeah.
And there's a
They
reason
had a
why you lost that
99%
game.
chance of winning.
Yeah,
They had a
yeah, exactly.
99% chance of winning that game at some point, but at some point you also have to have the situational awareness to be like, oh, let's not give this offense additional momentum. Um, because momentum is a very, very real part of the game of football. And just to kind of like, it reminded me of like something I've been like thinking about a lot lately. With the success that the Eagles are having on the tush push, why did more teams not sneak the ball? I saw it countless times in the Titans and Broncos game where the Titans would have 1 or 2 yards left and they would just like punt it away instead of trying a sneak. I mean, you're
The
not
reason
supposed to
why
be good
teams don't
this
try to,
year, per everyone else. Just throw it out the wall. Test the sneak. If he gets it, he gets it. If not, what change? What result changes?
but the reason why teams don't try to tush push because it only worked for Philly because Saquon Barkley squats 600 pounds and so does their quarterback. Him and Jalen
It
Hurts are,
it worked
so
before
like,
Saquon got there.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, now you have additional help. So, but like, it's the tush push works because of Jalen Hurts. It doesn't work for anybody else because they don't have that same body type, that same, that squat rack. They're probably squat 600-700 pounds. It works because of Jalen Hurts. So I don't think that, a lot of quarterbacks can just like. I don't think Burrow could just do a tush push. Like A tush push and a quarterback sneak are kind of different, but it's just some guys are just bodies are built for certain
Well, I mean,
things.
just like a
So
sneak in any in any sort of way, not specifically the tush push where you have all these guys lined up, which I also don't think is happening either. Like even when teams do sneaks, they don't do the tush push formation typically. They'll go out there in like the prototypical QB sneak where we're in I and I'm just gonna jump forward. A lot of teams don't even try the tush push formation. Anyway, but yeah, not to get off too much into a tangent, but like I mean, I just think that with the success that they've had over the years, you would think more people would try to experiment with it because it's become a
it's the
easy two
quarterback
yards
though.
for them.
That's what I'm
But
saying. It's Jalen.
if you have inches or and one, I mean, any quarterback is big enough, and if your guys are strong enough, I mean, any team can really pull it off. I feel like
No,
you
they
don't
can't.
need to have Jalen
Jalen
Hurts.
Jalen
Jalen
Hurts is
Hurts
the
is a
reason why that works
significant
though.
help. I'm not gonna. I don't think that's true, but I mean, this is
Other
not
teams
what
do
we've
it and
come
they
here to
don't work.
debate. I mean,
Other teams don't do it. It's because of Jalen Hurts. It's because of his power and his strength. Jalen Hurts pretty much is a de facto
but they
running back.
also
Like
don't
he
do it
can,
in the same way.
but that's why it makes it unique because they have their own formula of doing things. But other teams have copied it, and the reason why teams don't do it no more and they dropped it because they can't take it from them. They can't. The Bills tried it with Josh Allen, and he's big enough, but they don't have the right O line. They don't have the right formation. It's just some things are just a specific science that work for certain teams. He tried it 3 times against the Chiefs last year in the championship, and guess what? He got stuff all 3 times. It's a science. It's got to know what gap to go. You got to have chemistry with your O line. I mean, that Philly O line's been with Jalen Hurts since forever. So it's got to be like it's a whole bunch of things. It's not just tush push. It's like that O line and all with Philly, they've been there for years with Jalen Hurts, so they already know like, okay, if I see him go this way, I know what gap I'm going to. If I see him going this way, I know what gap he's going to. And then now it works even more because now you got Jalen Hurts pushing his legs, and you got Saquon Barkley, his strong ass, pushing Jalen Hurts. So it's like now it's just like damn. So now we got all this continuity and just all this like togetherness, and they practice that all the time in practice. So a lot of teams don't practice that. A lot of them just call it and they just be like, all right, let's just run it. Like, I don't think that works for Caleb Williams. As strong as he is, it just doesn't work. He doesn't have the chemistry with his team.
I mean, I don't want to get off in too much of a tangent. The more perspective I was looking for is like, or that I'm trying to advocate for is like, even before the Eagles started doing it so like constantly, it was a 92% success play when you used it within the 1 or 2 yards that you needed. Now, if you're trying to say that maybe teams have become more accustomed to defending it, maybe that's true, but I also don't think that, like, similarly, I don't think that they're trying to do it the way that the Eagles do it. So like they're not getting behind their quarterback in the way that they're just going I formation and saying, "All right, quarterback, go get it." I mean, that's not going to work for you at this point when people have game planned for it. But I mean, I mean, we could sit here and have a whole debate on the tush push. I mean, there's a reason that it was in league meetings. There's debates to be had on it. But I do want to go ahead and get into the next game without too much time. It's a pretty quick one that we can go over because it's kind of a blowout. Danny Dimes beats the Fins. As a Duke fan, I love to see that. As a Titans fan, I hated to see that. So a bit conflicted. Rooting for Daniel Jones, but rooting against the Colts. Anything to contribute as far as Colts knocking off the Dolphins in blowout fashion?
Yeah, no, just
Tua looked like he didn't know where he was. I don't know what Tua was doing, honestly.
they suck.
Um,
Dolphins suck.
yeah.
And they're gonna
Then the
have to blow
next
that up.
game I have is yeah. Next game I have is Bears Vikings. I was like, where did this Bears team come from in that first half? And then it was like, oh, there's the vintage Vikings we know. As soon as it got to the fourth quarter, they were all of a sudden able to move the ball. Coincidentally, as soon as Randy Moss got on the broadcast, but um, I don't know. That was a very interesting game to me because it was like the Bears had controlled everything the entire game. They got a pick six on McCarthy, and then McCarthy just got it together and was like, you know what, let's go win this game.
Yeah, I mean, he went to Michigan. You know, he got that. He knows what it's like to have that championship DNA and to not quit and that blue collar, hard nosed mindset. So he just brought that over to the league and just made it his own way. But yeah, he played for Harbaugh, so he had an NFL coach in college, so he's kind of used to that.
And like I said, we can go through these games as quickly as you want. Um, we can freeze on some games if you want as well. But the next one I had was Packers easily handling the Lions. I didn't watch too much of this game, but looks like the Packers were never ceasing control. They were in control the entire game. It was really just like the Packers show and the Lions showed up to watch. Uh, Micah Parsons got his sack in his first debut game for them, so that was cool. But otherwise, not much to say as far as this game's considered, other than like the
They missed their
Lions were kind of
coordinators.
worse than I expected them to be. This, yeah,
Yeah, they missed their coordinators
which
for sure.
I don't like. I did expect the Lions to like not be as good, but I didn't expect it to look this bad week one. But as you said before, it's only week one, so it could improve with time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but unless you have anything else on that, we can go ahead and go to the next game.
You go next one.
If you Rams beat the Texans, I didn't watch any of this game. Did you?
Nope. It was out of
All
network. I
right.
couldn't even get the game.
I use some definitely legal streaming services to find certain games. Um, and then 49ers beat the Seahawks. Surprising to absolutely no one, I feel like. I heard Darnold had a fumble like on the last play or something. I
Yeah.
don't really have much on that.
What about them
And
Steelers and the
then
Jets?
Raiders
That was a
beating the
good ass
Pate.
game.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that one, but we can go ahead and talk about it now since you brought it up though. Yeah,
It
I
was
thought
just
Justin Fields looked amazing. I was like, where did this Justin Fields come from?
it was just a good
Like
ass
I
game. It
I
was it
know
was a
he's a
scoring back
rushing
and forth.
quarterback. He's
Like
like a run-oriented quarterback, but he was everywhere.
he
Like they
just
couldn't bring the man down,
it,
it seemed like.
yeah, no, it felt like a college game. It was just a lot of scoring. Like the first, like from the opening snap, it was just back and forth. It was like 34-32, and the game winning stop was by Jalen Ramsey. He got the big hit. He knocked the ball out, and that was it. So that game was if that game was probably my favorite game all weekend. That was my
Yeah.
favorite game.
I know that was crazy because like I didn't watch the game much in live action, but like I kept seeing all the red zone stuff come up. I was like, oh wow. But I did see like edit after the game. It was like Ramsey going crazy. It's like, oh dang, maybe I was wrong about this version of Jalen Ramsey. Maybe the Minka trade wasn't as bad as we thought. But no, Jalen Ramsey had a real good game. I kudos to him. Like what a performance. Um, I don't really have too much on that game other than that, though, if you have any interest in the next game.
No, go ahead.
Next one I wanted to discuss was Raiders and Pats. This is the one that because the Titans played in the late window, I kind of try to prioritize before I moved on to a different game later. Uh, I don't know. This game was really weird. I feel like because Geno Smith was really clicking to start the game. Boom, 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 boom. Dart, 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 dart. And then all of a sudden stuff started hitting the fan as soon as he threw a pick. And then, the Patriots get on their run. And then the Raiders come back. They get on their run and eventually win the game. So it was an interesting game to me. I was like, hmm.
It was a rainy,
Didn't seem like when
slushy.
I was watching the defense were great.
It was a rainy, slushy game. It
What?
was, it was odd. And it was raining and stuff. But I don't know, man. The Patriots, they just, I don't know. I don't know. When Tom Brady left, I don't know. He took something with him because they haven't been the same. Like it's been 7 years. Like you haven't had a winning season. I mean, you went to the playoffs in 21, but you got beat like a drum by Allen, and you just never went back. But that was a wild card. I mean, I don't know what they need. I really don't know what the Patriots need. I think they got Mike Vrabel. I know it's week one. I know I get that, but it's just like the Patriots have no pulse right now. Like, for example, I get it. Brady and Belichick has been there for years, but look at teams like the Packers, who had Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre. Then they had Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Now they have Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. You see how even though the head coach and quarterback changes, but they still keep that tradition of being good, being a good team, making the playoffs. Like it's just the organization. The Patriots need to just they can't keep that going. I guess it was just Brady and Belichick because Packers is just like every decade or every 20, 30 years they have a new head coach quarterback, but they keep that going. They keep that 10 win, 14 win, make the playoffs, might make a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? They made one with Favre and they won. They made one with Aaron Rodgers and they won. Jordan Love is to be seen, but you see how like they keep
Maybe.
that shit going. Like Patriots just don't know how to keep it going.
Uh
It's been
huh.
7 years, bro, with one playoff appearance and they got beat. So I just don't know. I don't know, bro. They just look flat. They just don't look like they have any juice whatsoever. They just look just boring. Like they just don't look like they have anything like spark, no juice.
Hey, maybe for the Packers, it's the football gods looking at them so graciously because they don't have an owner. Maybe they just don't like ownership. I don't know. Um, next game I had was Bucks and Falcons. That one was a overtime game.
Yep.
I watched a bit
Emeka,
of it, but not a lot.
Emeka Ibuka, Ohio State
What'd you think
Buckeye,
of that
caught,
game?
caught that touchdown. I was just like, there you go. But the
Yeah.
Falcons still had a chance to win it. But I think
What a
Michael
tragic
Penix is
miss by
definitely,
Koo.
yeah. But I think Michael, even
Michael
though they
Penix
lost, I
is
think
legit. Yeah.
Michael Penix is definitely quarterback one, QB one.
Yeah. We already talked about the Steelers. What about the Jags' solid win in Carolina? From a lot of people that I've seen online, it looks like Bryce just kind of didn't know where he was during this game. He was like looking at the jumbotron during a timeout before a play was called. He had like exclusive focus on like a mid-game jumbotron, kind of helmet game type of thing. But they had like a weather delay, and then they came back from it, and Jacksonville just never looked back. They just kept going, boom, 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 and won 26-10, I believe it was.
Yep. There was a rain delay, but it was a good game though.
Yeah. I don't think Travis Hunter didn't look all that great though. So I don't know on that avenue. Next game was a pretty shocking one to me, because the Chargers beat the Chiefs. Typically, I hate to be that guy, but typically the refs find any excuse to gift a win to Mahomes, and it didn't happen. The Chargers just played a better game.
Yeah, I mean, it was in
Thoughts?
Brazil, and so it was those are kind of those trips are wonky. Like those games are kind of weird. Like same thing with last year with the Packers and the Eagles.
Hmm.
Like those overseas games are so weird because the time zone and you have to hurry up and get back up and go play a game. It's cool. Those games are weird. I don't either way. I don't really put a whole lot of stock in those overseas games because it's so difficult to like. It's daytime in America, but it's nighttime over there, and it's just like it's a whole lot. Like the Packers Eagles game was weird last year too. It's just like I get it, but those games really I don't like. It's the same thing with college football when they go to Ireland. Like I don't. Those games are just weird to me. Like Florida State almost won last year, and then they went 2-10. I think the overseas games I really don't pay attention to them a lot because it's just hard to just get over there, travel, then come right back, and then it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. But other than that, I think the Chiefs are going to have a hard way to. Their division's tough, man. They got the Chargers now with Harbaugh and Herbert. Then they got the Raiders with Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, and Ashton Genty. And then you got the Broncos with Bo Nix. I mean, and Sean Payton. So their division's not gonna be no easy. Just are we just finna just win? Like no, they might not win a division this year.
Yeah, and then the last game I really had any thoughts on was the Eagles Cowboys game. For this game, I thought that the Eagles looked really good that first half to, three quarters into the game, but as soon as the weather delay happened, they kind of turned into a different team, it seemed. The Cowboys, though, under their rookie head coach, kind of shocked me with how much effort they played with out the gate. Typically, teams don't play that well under a rookie head coach, as far as I am aware. So that was definitely encouraging for Dallas fans. Now, I'm not going to lie to you here. I don't think that this is going to become the standard for the Cowboys, though. I still think that they're going to have a pretty bad season. Um, I think it was one of those things where you're just getting up for the reigning champions and playing at your best, which ultimately wasn't good enough tonight, or not tonight, but that day. But it was a very encouraging performance if I am a Cowboys fan. If I am a Cowboys fan, I think I could take a lot of hope from that game, even though me as a person, individually from that, I still don't think they're going to be very good this year.
I think they'll be decent. I mean, there was a lot of rain delays this weekend. They had the Patriots had a rain delay. The Eagles game
Yeah,
had one. There was a rain delay with Jacksonville. I mean, golly, I don't know what's going on, but for the most part, I just feel like
there's a thunder delay for there's going to be a thunder delay for the Broncos Titans game, but then they were like, you know what, F it, we're just going to let you play.
just like
Because they had
yeah,
announced
like
it on like the jumbotrons in Denver, and then they're like, you know what, we're not enforcing it actually. Go out there and finish the game.
it was like
Because it was like
you
it
got
happened like right as halftime hit.
yeah, it's okay. You guys be all right. Yeah, be all right. Just go play. This is like Jesus, like damn, like. But I think the Cowboys. I think they'll be. I mean, if they play like they played in the first half, I can see them winning more than just 5 games, going 5-12. I could see them being like 9-8, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. Like if they play like they did in the first half, I mean, shit. I mean, bro, and think about it. That's the defending champs, and they play them tough like that. So imagine when they go play Jacksonville or go play Miami, they're gonna beat the doors off of them. So I'm like, well, they could go 9-8, and sneak in the wild
He said
card.
maybe
You
Mike
just,
McCarthy was the issue.
I don't know.
Maybe Mike
I'm
McCarthy
just,
was the issue.
bro, I don't know. I just listen. If you got the defending champs on the ropes like that, that's the best team in the league, and you playing them like that. What you gonna do when you play
Mm.
the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Dolphins or the Patriots for real, especially the Patriots. Like, bro, they might be able to rip off 9 wins. They might go 9-8.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I don't know. I just view it directly from the perspective like I think this was a get up game for them because they are going against the national champions. Whenever you have that
Super Bowl.
opponent that you go against, a lot of teams will be like, "Oh, yeah, that's basically their Super Bowl that year," even though they may not necessarily intend to be bad, but they're gonna be bad. They may be like, "All right, we're putting extra effort into winning this game specifically,
But I don't
just
see
as
them either
just to play
going.
spoiler more or less." But
But I don't see them going 4-12 either. I just don't like. I don't see them going 4-12 like the Patriots. I feel like they have a better record than the Patriots.
what about 4-13? Because it's 17 games.
Well, you know what I mean. Like I don't. I think they'll have a better record than the Patriots. Like if I had to put my money on something, even though both teams are terrible, the Patriots or the Cowboys, I would put my money on the Cowboys. Even though I'm like both teams are not that
Right.
good, but I'm like, shoot, I trust the Cowboys. I don't think the Patriots have any type of like they're just stale. Like I don't. I was watching them. And I'm
I
just like,
for
bro,
the
like they don't have no type of like
Mm.
giddy up. Like I'm like, man, this offense is boring. The defense is boring.
Patriots fans are
The,
really gonna hate you.
I just don't like. And you let the Raiders just come in there and just raid. That's what they did. And the Raiders, listen, and the Raiders are in Las Vegas. They came across country, so what 4 or 5 hours ahead. They had to catch up on sleep because the time zone difference,
Mhm.
and still whooped your ass. I'm just in the rain, and Geno Smith really
Yeah,
can't throw in the rain, and
yeah.
still won.
For the record, I don't think either team's gonna be very good at all anyway. But not to spend too much time on that. But I did want to just see if you had any comments on the last two games because I really don't. I mean, the Commanders easily handle the Giants. I mean, it's just expected, I guess. That's my
It's
reaction.
I don't know. It was a good game. I watched it, but not really.
I know Giants fans are calling for Russell Wilson's head. I know that much. And then the Cardinals and the Saints. I saw that like Rattler had a drive to win it, but couldn't really put it together. That was another game that I really didn't care about, even though it ended up being close. I'm not sure about your thoughts on that game though.
I really didn't watch that game either. So I was like, I don't know if I want to watch Cardinals and Saints, but yeah, just one of those games.
Yeah. All right. So, I did want to like go briefly through the upcoming week schedule, just kind of throw our predictions out there. Pick as many upsets or go with your gut or however you want to call these games. If you want to just go with all the guys you think are obvious, if you want to be like, oh, I think this team's better, but I'm gonna pick the other team just because I think an upset's gonna happen. However you want to do it. But the first game of the week, we'll kind of go in like clock order. It's going to be the Washington Green Bay game on Thursday.
Say Green Bay.
I'd personally say I have Green Bay because they're home. Yeah,
Green Bay.
I do think it's going to be a very good game because Washington's a very good team. I just think that Green Bay being at home and being an actual contender, at least in my eyes, I think they pull it out. That's my thoughts on it. You have anything else to add? You want to go to the next game?
Next game, just rapid fire.
Uh, all right. Ravens Browns. Ravens
Ravens.
bounce back in a big
Ravens.
way.
Yep.
Jags, Bengals. I got Bengals.
Bengals.
Start out 2-0? Question mark?
Yeah. Yep. Question mark?
Uh, Giants, Giants, Cowboys.
Giants, maybe. Well, yeah, Giants. Well, hey, listen. Well, listen.
This is
Can
one
I
of those
vote for both
games.
teams to lose? Can both teams lose? Like, can it just end in a tie?
I mean, you can predict that if that's what you want to predict, because ties are
No,
able to happen in the regular season. So,
no, I'm gonna go Giants. I'm gonna go Giants.
I am too, but it's not because I think they're the better team. I just think that like Neighbors decides he wants to have a statement game, and he's like, Russ, I don't care, give me the ball. I had one too many slip ups last week, and I want to keep showing the world that I'm that guy. So give me the ball, get out the way. I don't think that the Giants are like a better team than the Cowboys, though.
No,
I,
I
I
don't
do
think
think
so
that the
either.
Cowboys,
Absolutely
even though I
not.
don't think they're going to be good, I do think that the Cowboys are at least a better team than the Giants are. And yes, I get this is Jerry World, but I don't really care. I still think the Giants, by some miracle of God, pull this out. Um, Next game, Bears and Lions. Kind of an interesting game for me. I probably won't end up watching it
I'm gonna go
because I think the
Bears.
Titans are playing around the same time.
I'm gonna go Bears.
Uh, huh. See, this one's a tough one for me because, like, do I believe the Lions are going to be good and like actually bounce back? Because I know Gibbs didn't have a good game last week. He had a bunch of catches, but not a lot of yards. Um, hmm. You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that the Lions get it, but it's unnecessarily close.
Okay.
Like Goff is a game manager who just somehow pulls it out of his wee hole. Um, and then the next game, Pats fans. As bad as I don't like the
All right.
Patriots fans this year, I think that that's an easy a game. Um, Patriots fans this year are annoying. I don't want to get into that though. But I do think the Patriots easily pull that out. The Dolphins aren't good.
I don't even know. I
Eventually, we
guess the
got to predict
Patriots.
a.
Like that's like an
Eventually, I
awful
have to
game.
predict a game for the Dolphins to win. Yeah. Eventually, I have to predict a game for the Finns to win because I can't just like sit here and say, "Oh, you're gonna go 0 and 16," like they think we are. But I, I don't know. I just think that they and the Saints, unless they play each other, are the two worst teams in the NFL. Oh my Lord. And then 49ers and Saints. 49ers by a million.
Niners.
Sorry, Ritter, but I don't think you're that guy. Um, I guess it depends on how Purdy recovers, and I know Kittle just got placed on IR, but I still think the Niners have enough firepower to breeze through the Saints, honestly. Bills Jets. This is one of those games that I feel like it doesn't have any business being good, but it still will be somehow.
It doesn't have any business being good, but it will be.
I
I'm gonna
do.
take the Bills.
I do have. I have the Bills, but I think it's going to be unnecessarily close for no reason. It doesn't have any business being close, but it will be somehow. Um, Seahawks and Steelers. Steelers pull another one out of there
Pittsburgh.
that place. But yeah, I don't. The thing with the Steelers is they're gonna go 9-8, and they're gonna make the playoffs somehow. Like they're gonna go just good enough to make the playoffs. You don't know how they're gonna do it, but they're gonna do it somehow.
Dude, they're gonna do it.
But yeah, I'd agree Steelers.
I tend to agree. I just don't. They're gonna pull something out their hat, and it'll be like, yeah, wild card round. Pittsburgh still like, how the hell did they even get in? Like, that's Mike Tomlin, bro. They all gonna get in, bro.
Rams and Titans. Call me a homer. Titans. They're out two
I'm gonna go
linemen.
Titans.
The Rams
I'm gonna go
are.
Titans because you're my
Titans
boy,
might be
bro.
out. Titans. Titans might be out of linemen. We haven't seen what's going to happen with J.C. Latham yet. He got injured against the Broncos, but the Rams are down two linemen, and I think that our pass rush is trying to prove something right now because no one, not even Titans fans, thought that they were going to be good this year, and they looked, I won't say very good, but they looked good enough to do something at least in that first game. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Titans can pull this one out. Not to hate on Stafford, I just think he's past his prime, and I think he's struggling with various things. So I do got the Titans. Don't worry, guys. I'm not just gonna sit here and predict a 16-0 season, but um, try to get through these last few and then get into our last segment and get out of here. But just kind of rapid fire the last few. Panthers, Cardinals. Uh,
Cardinals.
Bounce back for Bryce Young. Panthers. Okay, I don't have any issue with that pick. I think it could go either way, honestly. I don't think either team's good. Broncos, Colts. Broncos.
Broncos. I don't. Yeah, Broncos.
Uh, it's tough seeing that like Danny Dimes looks like he might be legit, but it's only 1 week, so I can't sit here and say the Colts are going to be better than a actually really good defense. Um, and then Eagles Chiefs. I got the Eagles. I wasn't impressed with the
Eagles.
Chiefs in week one, so.
Yeah, Philly. I'm gonna take Philly.
Uh, Sunday night football, Falcons Vikings. I got Vikings.
Vikes.
Bucks Texans. I got Buccaneers.
I'm gonna go
This is the Monday
Texans.
night football 6 p.m. game.
I'm gonna go
All
Texans on
right,
this one.
Chargers at Raiders. Monday night football at 9. Chargers at Raiders.
I'm gonna go
I
Raiders,
think personally
man.
I'm going Chargers.
I'm gonna go Raiders, man. I'm gonna go
I
Raiders. I think they go ride that momentum.
okay. Interesting. I think the Chargers are going to try to put together a statement victory again after what they did with the Chiefs. Be like, this is not just a 1 week phenomenon. But that's just a me thing. All right, so there's our picks for week 2 of the NFL season. If you want us to do college football picks for select games, let us know. Otherwise, I think this may or may not become a regular sequence during the NFL regular season. Otherwise, let's go ahead and start on our start bench cut. This is fantasy edition, so this is not necessarily, oh, I'd rather have this player than that player. It's more of if I'm starting a fantasy football or basketball team, what player do I want to start bench or cut? So, do you want to start or would you like me to?
Go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to start on the NBA side of things. I got Jokic, Domantas Sabonis, and Joel Embiid.
So give me your start bench cut. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm starting Jokic, benching Sabonis, and cutting Embiid. Basically the exact order I presented them in.
About to say that's pretty much the same way you just said.
What do you agree, disagree?
No, yep. Yeah, I mean,
All
that's pretty
right.
much straightforward as you can
Uh,
get.
you agree though? Like, would you cut or bench someone different?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that's exactly how you said it. I'm good with that.
Okay. Uh, all right. I just think that like Joel Embiid's a pure scorer. The other two guys at least have passing stats that they can rack up for you in fantasy. So while Embiid may be a better player than Sabonis, I think Sabonis is going to be better for you in fantasy. Um, there's situations like that in fantasy football too, especially with kickers, because just because you're a good kicker doesn't mean you're going to get a bunch of points. You have to have a competent offense. Nonetheless, uh, go ahead with your NFL edition.
I'm gonna give
We'll just
you
kind of go
some
back and forth
play.
a little bit.
I'm gonna I'm gonna give you some players, and you tell
Okay.
me whether you would start bench or cut them. So you give me yours. Like I'm gonna tell you the
Okay.
players, and then Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Terrell Owens, you said
Randy
who?
Moss or
Randy Moss, Jerry Rice.
yep,
For are we going to based on fantasy or all-time receivers?
fantasy, but these are the options you have.
Because if we're Okay, if this is the theoretical world, we're back in whatever year it is they're all playing again with each other. I think for fantasy purposes, I'd probably go Moss because I think like he was more of a bell cow and like not necessarily like a bell cow. I don't know what the right word, but like he was a lead receiver that no matter what team he was on, he was consistently relied on to be the top guy.
He did all
Um,
of the heavy lifting. Yeah,
and then And then like especially if we're like converting them to the modern era, I think he's the most likely dude to like be put in the run game for no reason. Um, and then you said the other two, Jerry Rice and who?
Terrell Owens.
Jerry Rice, pure production guy. Terrell Owens, it really just depends on which version of Terrell Owens you're getting. So I'd say
Philadelphia
start
Eagles.
Randy, bench Jerry. Yeah, I still stay with the same thing.
Okay.
Maybe if it was Niners to Rollins, there would be a conversation, in my opinion. But maybe I'm not looking at the right fantasy stats. But that's my opinion. What's yours?
Uh, I'll probably go the same. I would probably I would start Randy Moss for sure because Vikings Randy Moss, and then there's like the '07 Patriots with Tom Brady Randy Moss. I don't even. Those are two scary ass
Yeah, that's
receivers.
kind
I don't
of.
even know
I was
which.
assuming like. Yeah, I
I'm
was
going with
assuming
the
you were going
Vikings though.
Vikings. That's why I went with the
Yeah,
Vikings.
and then
Yeah.
Jerry Rice is cool,
Uh,
and then I guess To will be last because just like I don't
yeah.
know, man, because To could block, bro. Like To he would set the edge and clear up like a
Mhm.
linebacker. I don't know, but Jerry Rice did have the
That doesn't
production and
matter
stuff
for
like that, but
fantasy
he's never played
points.
without Joe. Yeah, but I'm just like I don't know, like I don't know, but Randy's number one to me. Like
Pancake
I feel
blocks
like
aren't fantasy
you
point
can get that in the first
eligible.
quarter. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
go ahead
Um.
with your basketball.
Anyway, I guess my second one. Keldon Johnson, Kelly Oubre, and Max Struess. What you think?
I don't even know, man. Two of those guys I don't even really recognize. I mean, I know where they are, but I don't even know. I didn't watch enough of the film. It's crazy. Kelly Oubre, I know who that is though. I don't know. Yeah, you have to give me your take on that because like those are like some deep cuts. I don't even know.
Uh,
Kelly
well,
Oubre.
I'm gonna start Kelly Oubre, bench Max Struess, and cut Keldon Johnson. That's my
Damn,
take.
damn.
Do you got
God
an
damn.
NFL one for us? Another one?
I I only got two more. Um, Amon-Ra
Okay.
St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Come on, right? Okay.
CD Lamb
I'm on your
and AJ
CD.
Brown.
AJ Brown. Cutting AJ. Well, what week AJ Brown are we talking about? Like,
What do
did
you
he just have a
mean? What do you
stinker,
mean?
or has he not had his stinker yet? Because
Just
every
I'm
year he
just
has
giving you
that
the
stinker
player.
because he has so many weapons next to him. Okay.
I'm just giving you the
I
players I
think
name.
if we're going these, I think I start CD just because I know that Dak's gonna force the ball to him. Like I'm looking at this again from a pure fantasy perspective. Like who's getting me most fantasy points? So I think CD. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna bench Amonra because I think he's consistent with like his level of production. And then I think I cut AJ Brown, though I like him the most of the three. I think he has the most inconsistent fantasy output just because of all the weapons he has next to him.
Okay. Okay. I like that analysis. Go ahead with yours. Your next one.
Okay, I'm trying to think of like some higher name guys since the other guys kind of went over your head. So ooh, start bench cut Chris Paul. We're gonna do different positions. So Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and who's the third guy that I want to do? Let's do like a random Draymond Green.
Russell Westbrook,
So
Draymond Green. Who's
Chris
the last guy?
Paul, Draymond Green, and Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook. I'm starting because I know he does the most shit. He does all a lot of shit. I know he won't get fantasy points all over the board. Then I'm gonna go Draymond
But he
and then Chris
he
Paul.
also comes off the bench though.
Yeah.
So that's like when he plays. But keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Russell, Draymond, Chris Paul.
So you said okay. Okay, so the assists for Chris Paul don't really sway you.
Nah, not
All
really.
right. Your turn.
That's my last one. We're gonna go Jared Goff.
You're lagging. I can't hear the ones you said. Which three names did you name? I didn't hear you. Yo, you still there? Yo, Tyler. Oh, I didn't hear the names that you named. I think it was lagging. Jared Goff. I don't know why it keeps lagging. Um, start Jared Goff, bench the second guy, to cut the third guy, I guess. Well, guys, that's gonna do it for our last segment or our last segment of the day. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here at Gridiron and Hardwood with both of your hosts, me, Trent, and Tyler. And again, thank y'all for coming out. I do want to once again plug our socials. That's going to be at Gridwood Pod on Twitter and at Gridiron and Hardwood Pod. So gridiron.hardwoodpod on Instagram as well as TikTok. Personals are for me at Trent the OG on Twitter and at Vibe and Trent on Instagram. And for Tyler, it's going to be at Tyler Cargill on all platforms. Uh, Other than that, though, I'd like to thank you all for listening. We went through a few different things today. It is going to be a bit of a shorter episode today, but thank you all for coming out, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, day, evening, early morning. But yeah, thank you for coming out, and join us here again next week to talk about all the new things in the week of football, as well as some issues in basketball as well. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.